In the morning on December the 7th, 1941, the Japanese conducted a surprise military strike on the United States Naval Base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The bombing resulted in the death of 2,300 Americans as well as the destruction of 2 battleships and most of their planes. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a major turning point in World War II and the 20th century. Hello, this is Simeon Kim, and in this documentary we'll be learning about the attack on Pearl Harbor and how it changed the course of the war. The motivation for the attack didn't arise out of nowhere. The US were expecting it, and it was a culmination of 2 decades of conflict that existed between the 2 countries. The US and Japan had strife since the 1920s, and it was inevitable that a war was going to occur. Japan had imperial ambitions to expand its land and gain resources from other countries. These ambitions created even more tension with major Western countries such as France, Britain, and the US. Japan was constantly invading countries, and the League of Nations was not in favor of this. These attacks proved Japan's military might and their willingness to use it. The 27th of September 1940, the Tripartite Act, known as the Berlin Pact, was signed between Japan, Germany, and Italy, which gave Japan even more power. This proved a direct threat to the US, as they were prone to attack more than ever before. The US prepared for war but remained neutral. Meanwhile, Japan was invading China and Indochina, and the US demanded them to stop, which they didn't. The US tried to aid their progress by freezing Japanese assets, and on the 1st of August, an embargo was placed on Japan prohibiting exports of oil, steel, iron, and aviation fuel to Japan. Japan desperately needed US oil, and the US demanded they leave China. Japan refused and realized swift military action was their only option. On December the 1st, 1941, Japan officially approved war against the US, Great Britain, and Holland. The beginning of this war was a plan to attack Pearl Harbor and neutralize US's fleet. Japan hoped the attack would result in them being able to take control of most of Southeast Asia without being stopped. It was a surprise attack, and the battle began before Japan formally declared war on the US. The attack came in 2 waves, one at 7 AM and the second an hour later. Even though the attack only lasted 2 hours, 2,300 Americans had died. Almost every American plane was damaged, and 2 battleships, the USS Oklahoma and the USS Arizona, were completely destroyed. The outrage and shock from this raid resulted in the emergence of a divided America. Later in the day, President Franklin Roosevelt signed the Declaration of War, which marked a historic turning point in the war. This primary source is a hurried dispatch from the ranking United States naval officer in Pearl Harbor, Admiral Husband Edward Kimmel. It was sent to all major Navy commands and fleet units, which was the first official word of attack at the unprepared Pearl Harbor base. It reads, "Air raid on Pearl Harbor, X. This is not a drill." Attack on Pearl Harbor wasn't very damaging, but it had a major effect on the broader context of the war. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the entire country found itself grossly into the war. Supporting the war became a way of life, and the American economy quickly became a wartime economy. Taxes were raised to help pay for the war, and war bonds were issued. The Allies were weakened at this stage in the war, but the tides had turned due to America joining the Allies. Before the attack on Pearl Harbor, much of America's government was opposed to entering the war. However, with America's territory being the target of foreign attack, the mindset quickly changed, though there was still hesitation about joining the war in Europe. At first, the war was only declared against Japan, but after Germany and Italy's own declarations of war against the United States, America was forced to enter the European front. America donated a large amount of weapons and supplies to the Allies, which helped them fight back and overturn the war. While Germany had the dominant position from the start of the war to the end of 1941, America's huge military advancements tilted the balance in favor to the Allied powers. However, America's entrance into the war meant they could compete with the Axis powers. For the first year, America didn't attack much and ramped up the production of military supplies at home. It was only in 1943 and 44 American forces proved to be a pivotal factor in changing the outcome of the war. The US were technologically advanced ahead of the other countries, and their biggest innovation that drastically impacted all of history was the nuclear bomb. And on August 6, 1945, an American bomber dropped the world's first deployed nuclear bomb over the city of Hiroshima, which accelerated the end of the war. The biggest question that is still in discussion today is, what if Japan never attacked Pearl Harbor? Most historians believe if Japan didn't attack Pearl Harbor, we would have a German-occupied Europe and the Allied countries would have been invaded. The damage on Pearl Harbor was not very devastating, but is arguably the most influential turning point over the course of the war, as it resulted in the entrance of America into the war, which caused a major tilt in power.
Shining hard, go we back up. Rose gold from your neck up. You know just long as try to check us. Papa X feel like you Malcolm. I'm in a relationship with all my bitches, yeah. I need to cut some of them off, I need help. I got some bad things I want to myself. Gotta take the time to cut them off, I need help.